Now, can you hear me? Oh, there we go. We're just gonna we're waiting 1 second for our third commissioner, Commissioner Gardner, to get on the call. Yep. Oh, there we go. Okay, go ahead and start. Yep. And Commissioner Gardner, can you hear me? Still can't hear you. Can you hear us? I heard myself. Commissioner, can you hear us? It says on our side that yours is still muted. Let's see if Ben Stanley, can you hear us? Can't hear anything? Commissioner Gardner, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. We're recording. Welcome. We have one meeting before we get into our commission meeting. It's a Board of Equalization meeting. And there's 2 items on our agenda. The first one is to adopt an order calling for a special meeting, which is this meeting. Any questions to it?
None.
A motion? Then
I've got none.
Make a motion, we adopt agenda item 1 of this Board of Equalization.
I second.
We got a motion and a second to adopt the order calling for this special meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Number 2 is to approve or deny a 2021 annual statement for continuing property tax exemption for Shooters Club, Soccer Club. I know we had some discussion on this. This is a continuation one, and there was some information that we were trying to get from the club.
Right. Yeah. First off, members of the board, thank you for bringing this into a special meeting. We realized after the continuation last week that state statute requires that these decisions be made prior to May 15th. So obviously our next Board of Equalization at the end of the month would be after that. So we had to move this up. The Shooters Club has provided additional information. I believe someone is here they sent a supplemental letter that I attached to the agenda this afternoon. And I believe someone from Shooters is here to represent and provide additional information to the board so the board can make this decision and move on for 2021. So
Okay. Come on up. State your name, if you would.
My name is Mike Parker. I'm the club president, and I appreciate you guys doing this and having an opportunity to address any concerns or make comments that you have. I got off school early to do that, and I guess Corona is the advantage of that. We finished school a little bit early. I'm here to answer any questions that you do have, but if you wouldn't mind, one of our coaches is also more familiar with like codified language and things like that. And so his name is Nathan Birdsell. And so if he can have an opportunity to speak to you, and then if you have any more specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those too.
I just wonder really quick, Bert or Paul or whoever can just kind of outline the ask that we had, just to refresh our memories on exactly the topic that we were trying to explore there, to see. I know we were talking the difference between educational and.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I
Go
was
ahead,
just going to say, last year when the shooters came before us, they were able to be granted the exemption under the educational part of the statute, but the state changed that with the legislature, and those changes went into effect this year, and that disqualified them from becoming exempt as an educational organization. They had to qualify as a charitable organization, which has a larger standard, and the legislature even further defined some of those charitable qualifications and standards. So essentially, we needed to ask them to give us more information. The question that was still being debated and caused the agenda item to be continued is whether or not they are meeting the charitable standard as required by the statute for them to be considered property tax exempt. Of course, it's not just that the fact they're organized as a 501c3. Their activities have to fall within basically the greater benefit to the community and the standards established by law. And I believe Diana Flores from the County Attorney's Office went through that for the board in the last meeting, and there was some question, and basically the board asked shooters to provide additional information that shows how they're meeting those standards based on information that Diana sent them, which I believe she did last week, and they answered those in a supplemental document that they provided today that's been uploaded to the agenda. So,
okay, very good. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Nathan Birdsell. I am an attorney. I also coach for shooters. It's one of my favorite things to do, to work with these young people. I am here speaking on behalf of shooters to request the exemption be applied. I believe that the charitable standard is met by shooters in the organization. I think it's important to understand that shooters is not a typical soccer club that you might see. Even here in Utah County, and certainly not in the United States. We're not in the business of making a whole bunch of money off little kids playing soccer. It's trying to help people and help the kids grow and become better adults and better people. There's stated charters and stated directives that are handed out that coaches are provided. We provide an opportunity for every kid to play. It's not a situation where we're discriminating against children who maybe they're a little bit slower, maybe they're a little bit not quite as developed. This is a place where every kid who wants to play soccer can go and play. This provides a great service to the community. It's fantastic for my children to play, as well as children of many of my neighbors and friends. This exemption is necessary and helpful. If not granted, those fees will necessarily simply be passed on to the children and to their families. And we're going to deny children opportunities to play and to grow that might otherwise are taking advantage of that. I believe it firmly fits the charitable purpose. It provides a gift to the community. I cited in the supplemental brief the case of Jorgensen versus County Board of Equalization that discussed even if keeping a small number of individuals off Medicaid provided a great service to the community. I think we detailed some of the services that we provide, some of the health confidence issues that children receive by being able to participate in a sport, reducing the government burden on recreation, particularly in the winter time, get kids away from televisions, getting them away from electronics, giving them a safe place to go and play, a safe place to get out and run and to have fun. It's not limited just to Shooters Club, the field house. It's open. The recreation leagues specifically are open to many different individuals who want to come in and play and have fun. We believe it provides certainly health benefits as well as those educational benefits. I know Mike can speak more specifically to the history of shooters. having been involved and been there from the get-go. I will say one of the things that really sets shooters apart is the dedication of Mike and Karen Parker and their willingness to sacrifice both time as well as resources and put up investments and essentially they're both working probably 30 hours a week and probably more than that in some weeks, and no one gets paid for that. This is a volunteer organization. So unless you have any specific questions about the specific test that I can respond to.
Can I ask you a question about, you said it's open to the public, especially in the wintertime. Is there a schedule for that, or is it just free play?
A little of both. A little of both. So there is a schedule, and there are teams that will come in and we'll go there. Some teams will come and play. There's a recreation leagues, and multiple recreation leagues will come in there. And there are opportunities where people, members of the community, can go in and utilize it as well.
Okay.
Some of the concerns that were brought up last time is if we have shooters soccer be granted the exemption, then other sports organizations would do the same. But here in your description, it sounds like it's not necessary that you have a certain skill level to be part of the soccer team. It's you invite everyone in, and that's merely a venue to accomplish other goals that you illustrated in the package earlier.
I think that's a fair characterization of what shooters' goals and ambitions is. In fact, not related to this, I actually just got an email from Mike about there is a tryout process. Utah Youth Soccer Association, it falls under U.S. Soccer Association, requires tryouts. They require a tiering of teams. And so shooters certainly have some teams that play very competitive, but there's a spot for every kid that wants to play at shooters, and we find spots. We'll make spots. We'll form teams and make that work. As opposed to, I was another club here in Utah County that I'm really good friends with. The director of coaching there has told me that they wholesale cut teams if they fall below the premier level because of brand control and quality control is what she called it. We don't look at kids as quality control or brand control. These are children looking to have fun and to recreate.
So again, then the soccer is the principal venue to have the kids come together and then expand service to the community for them in their area where they live.
Sure, yeah. And that's a really good point that we one of the requirements for every team should do at least a service project every year. And I think coaches are better at returning and reporting on the service that was done, but I know a lot gets done. We did, even during Corona, I coach a U9 girls team. They're a bunch of feisty little girls, and they're kicking the pants, and they just make me happy as can be. We did we were able to do a clothing drive even during COVID and provided a service there was a nursing home in Spanish Fork that had a desperate need this year for some adult male clothing specifically. And so they were able to reach out to family and friends and put that all together. And
So what other service projects are they engaged in?
excuse me?
What other service projects are they engaged in?
So I think that might be better for Mike to answer.
We've had teams do. Want to speak? Yeah. My team specifically, we helped at Tabitha's Way this year. There were several teams that helped at Tabitha's Way. Mike Parker, I'm sorry. Several teams helped at Tabitha's Way. That was pretty Corona friendly this year with being able to have volunteers. It was definitely different than it is now, but that was a challenge, of course, this year. We've had with I think it's called like Parade of Trees. We have a lot of groups that work within their neighborhoods, choosing service projects. We work with the city specifically. We had a project lined up with Spanish Fork and the sports park to do massive cleanup. There's 800 people, kids, not necessarily 800 families, but 800 kids that play. So we could have had a large army in there, but it wasn't an appropriate time or venue to have that many people do that. So those are some of them that we've been involved with. What's that?
The school fair.
Oh yeah, we did the school fair. We helped my team again. We helped with run their local carnival and things like that. And then on just this past Saturday, I spent about 8 hours, and we had a large group of people helping to clean up the field house itself. And the field house is a part of getting the field house there in county property was that we create a landscape park. And so that park is there and open to, any residents and of course the local groups there. So the benefit was large to get that cleaned up because it's a large property. So
Do you have any? Do you know of any other properties, either public or private, that do year-round soccer in that area?
there are 3 organizations in South Utah County that do soccer.
Year-round.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're all, like Nate said, I want to speak more about, what we did, but they are all run just drastically different. I teach a class at BYU on exercise science and coaching specifically, and club sports has kind of changed the nature of youth sports in general. And it kind of sours me on it. And we do our best to make it as wholesome or as for everyone that it can be and keep the cost as low as possible. And that's really not the model of club sports at any sport that you're talking about.
Okay, Commissioner.
I was wondering if you do you guys, this is under an educational reason. And so I'm wondering, do you do camps? And if you do camps, do you have scholarships for kids that maybe can't afford to go to a camp? I mean, if we're looking at doing this under an educational exception,
Yep.
Then I'm wondering what type of educational programs you have.
Yeah,
as well.
great
Commissioner,
question.
sorry, this is Bert. Commissioner, this is actually under a charitable exemption, not educational. They received educational last year, but the state changed, redefined educational to be a facility that has a regular faculty and a regular curriculum with a regular enrolled students. So they're actually attempting to get this under charitable. But I think your question is still very relevant.
Under charitable.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind,
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
speak to that really quick too. We offer referee education, and that provides a lot of jobs for kids down there. There's a bunch of kids that are doing that, and we need more, and adults as well. We provide coaching education. Nate had something all set up last spring with many, not all, but many of the local recreation departments that they were going to run a training for all of the coaches down there. We do run camps as well. And we wish we could get more, and maybe I need to do a better job of it for sure. But we do have some people that are very generous with their money, and we try to leverage those resources to provide scholarships for those that may need that.
How many scholarships did you provide last year?
I have it on that document. It varies from year to year, just depending on who's has the money or the heart to be donating it. Most of the donations are with time for sure. That's where the bulk of it is. We ask the coaches to practice twice a week. We feel like that's really necessary for the kids to have a great experience with that. And so in a year, there are 80 to 100 opportunities that they're interacting with kids. And each of those opportunities is an hour to 2 hours.
Commissioner, to answer your question, this is Bert Harvey again. They provide in their application that they provide partial scholarship for all of their coaches' children, and then they have 14 full scholarships that were given out in the prior year. So these are, I'm guessing scholarships mean these are kids that play for no fee.
Okay, great.
Thank
I'm
you,
wondering if you wanted to come up.
Diana Flores from the County Attorney's Office. So I have a question mostly for probably Mike. They did mention in their supplemental letter that they rent out the facility to private instructors. And so the board would need probably more information on that, and then they would need to make the decision about whether the private rental violates the exclusive use requirement for the charitable purpose tax exemption. And so
Private rental.
yeah, so they say that they rent it out to instructors from time to time.
Instructors within the team or?
They said private instructors.
Yeah.
And so the board would need to make the decision about whether that would violate the exclusive use requirement of the facility. And then they do mention that they strive to put everyone on a team. But they do have these tryouts. And so I think it would be important to know whether they are turning people away, if anyone is being turned away. And then on the scholarships, the coaches are volunteers, but their children do receive partial scholarships. And so the board would need to determine whether the facility, as mentioned in the statute, whether the property is supported to a material degree by donations and gifts, which is an important part of that test. Do you have any questions for me?
Nope.
So thank you. With the tryouts, when a parent calls, this is the language that I have to use. We provide a place for everyone. Sometimes the numbers will not warrant being able to do another team. For example, if a team can be capped at 10, and we have 43 come to tryouts, then we're going to try everything that we can do to create the most opportunity for the most players. But there comes a point where we're limited by roster size to be able to add those people. And I've done the statistics on it because parents all the time ask, they're worried about the tryout process, and I try to say, don't worry about it. It's more like a level placement is essentially what it is. But that's kind of a funny word, and not many people know what that is. There are times where players that are in that position that we pull up a year, which depending on the year is a good option in some cases. In other cases, it's an option. It's not a great option for them, depending on the size of the child and things like that. But we do everything we can. By and large, we place everyone, but it's impossible based on the nature of the rostering to do that because we're limited by that, by the state organization. The third question was, what was the third question that you had? What was the other one? There's three. Yeah, Nate's going to speak to that, and the other one was? I'm sorry.
On the scholarships.
The scholarships, yeah. So I'm a school teacher in Springville, and we receive, $150 a year as teachers to use as materials for our classrooms. And it's a very similar process. Like I said, these coaches are 80 to 100 times that they are involved with these youth. Oftentimes, the term soccer mom or soccer coach is a great term. You picture the minivan going. They are the ride to the field, and they are providing that service more or less. I'm sure Nate has purchased equipment on his own for his team that is not provided by the club. There is equipment provided, but oftentimes coaches are providing additional equipment and rewards for programs that their own team is involved in. And then the other one, Nate was speaking.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you I don't make money by coaching for shooters. That's for sure. Yeah. I hope my wife's not watching. Because I tell her we're okay all the time. That's fine. It's fine. To the first question was private instructors and does that violate this exclusive use? I think there are a couple points. The first is there is a de minimis exception to it. What's the percentage? What's our use? And it's de minimis. So at this point, shooters does work with, it's called WSP, that do goalkeeping training, they'll do specific goalkeeper training inside that field house, and they can use it for that purpose at a pretty significant reduced rate. And so we have kids in the community, shooters and non-shooters, that will go. It's run by some of the coaches that are associated with BYU soccer that will come, and a lot of times those or the BYU kids will come and help give some coaching and education just on goalkeeping. But because it is separate, they do pay a little bit there. Realistically, though, the amount of revenue that comes in is for rental would be, I think, the definition of de minimis. I mean, it's basically what does it cost to turn the lights on and keep that place conditioned, cooled, and heated with the plumbing running. I mean, it's for the size of the facility. We're not making money on that.
Okay.
Just on the scholarships, are there need-based scholarships or are they talent-based?
They're need-based.
Need-based.
Okay. All right. We'll bring it up here. The commissioners, any thoughts or discussion that you'd like to have regarding this now that we've ran through it?
No, it answered quite a few things that I thought was hanging from last time. It seems to be pretty extensive and service-wide-based recruitment, not based on talent necessarily. And scholarships are need-based.
Okay. Commissioner Gardner, any questions you have or any thoughts?
No, I do wonder. I mean, I've never seen a soccer club be, a charitable organization. That's kind of out of the ordinary for me. I played soccer as a kid. I played club soccer. I have kids who play club soccer, but I do think that we need to look at this. We need to balance the charitable exception with the folks that are paying those property taxes. I think we asked some good questions. Are there other clubs that are going to apply for charity status if we do this? And there are other facilities. So I think it's a good question to consider. What are going to be the ramifications of this? If we say yes, we're going to give a property tax exemption to a soccer club. Are we going to have other sports clubs coming forward at that point as well? So I think there's something we definitely need to weigh there.
Sure. And Mike, so Mike's at the microphone right now. We did bring it back up here for discussion with the commissioners. Is that would you want to phrase that into a question to Mike or not, Commissioner Gardner?
No, I think it's more of a discussion with the two of you. I mean,
Okay.
how often have you seen a sports club come up?
Right. And I think.
Do we have any others?
Well, I don't know if we do. Do we have any others? I mean,
The only one I would probably I would classify in that area would be the Boys and Girls Club. They're essentially a recreational center. Of course, I don't know much about the Boys and Girls Club, mind you, but that would be one that I would make a comparison, that they're basically a youth recreational center that is an exempt property that we exempt every year.
YMCA.
YMCA, but I don't think there's a YMCA in Utah
No, but
County. But I believe there's one.
mine.
Yeah, so that's another similar. I don't know if Dave looks like he wants to say something.
Yeah, I think the YMCA is probably a good. Yeah, if you think of it like that, that makes sense.
I was just going to comment that some of these others have a broad-based public support of donations, and that sort of shows a general community feeling that, in fact, they are charitable in nature. I don't know with regard to this one how much or what percentage of the total operating expenses are donated from non-participant families or entities.
I'd say it's amazing how many there are. It's certainly not a large portion for sure, but there's a lot of people in the community that are committed to the program. It's a young program too. We've been probably a substantial organization since about 2010. And I thought a lot about that as you asked those questions. I think that's a great question. And I think it's important to look at the model. We have, I don't want to pat myself on the back. I'm not saying I'm necessarily right, but we've set the model and the philosophy within our club that it would be run very similar to that was good for kids. And that is I'm an educator by profession, and that's what every decision that I make, I try to decide on what is best for kids. I have had many clubs. I had one 4 days ago that contacted me and tried to come together. And the feeling that I get from them is that they want the numbers. They want to do and grow large and have stature and popularity within the community. And it would make my life a lot easier. It's not what's right for kids. It's not what's right for our community. And I've kind of dedicated the last 15 years of my life to that. So I believe strongly in it. I think we meet those guidelines. We do everything we can to be a part of the community and to help with that. And as I kind of did my research, I'm not an attorney by trade. I think if you can evaluate those decisions, if there were anyone to apply, the volunteer nature of it, that's a simple beginning and ending to that question. If they met those guidelines, then possibly. But I've been around sports forever. I'm an athletic director. That's just not where things are right now. Thank you.
I think I got my questions.
Okay.
My questions were answered, so thank you.
Thank you. So here's some of my thoughts. We did give them tax exempt status on the educational side. And this is shifted now to a charitable side. And I get it that we have certain standards that we need to uphold. The legislature really doesn't give a transitional zone in there for this, which I think is problematic. I am concerned about going forward and then having everyone come in and apply. I think that is very valid, and I would hope maybe in this case I'm inclined to approve this statement with a kind of an understanding that there's a transition here, and that there's probably needs to be more that is done going forward with it. It's not a complete line in there. There's some things probably that you can do differently in the way of charity that can be helpful in the application process. I think it's kind of right on the line for me. I could go either way with it. I would prefer to probably go the direction where we do approve this, and then going forward so that next year we can kind of hammer this down a lot harder to make sure that it's completely in line and it's not out of line, given that we have already given you tax exempt status in the past. This is just me speaking now. It could be the other two commissioners could think totally different with it, but I'm inclined to move that direction with that kind of understanding that those standards are going to be held a little higher when we look at it next year.
And those suggestions
I would concur with that. That's very much how I feel as well. I mean, I would like to see some more outreach to underprivileged youth, that sort of thing, to really solidify this charitable outreach. But I agree with Commissioner Lee on that.
If there could be some specifics, maybe at some time in the near future, we'd be happy to do that. The more creative, out-of-the-box thinking that we can do to make people feel like more that we have more value, we'd be happy to do that. That's awesome.
Okay, I think you know the standards.
Well, just one thing that I was,
Sorry,
one of the things I was thinking of is just use your older soccer players to have them teach clinics for younger soccer players that are like $10 or free for underprivileged kids. That helps both your older players learn leadership skills, and it's helping the community.
Absolutely. They do help a lot in the summer. In fact, with our U19 players, which is their last year in soccer, I give a talk to each of those teams about paying it forward and how they can and should, because of their experience in soccer, be leaders in the soccer community as they get out of their own playing career.
Yeah, this is great.
Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve
Yeah.
agenda item 2.
I second.
I got a motion and a second to approve agenda item number 2. All in favor, say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. All right, can we have a motion to adjourn that meeting, this meeting?
I'll make a motion that we,
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're now adjourned.
Aye.
We need to take a couple of minute break, just so, to change the